Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen walked along the perimeter fence of Forward Outpost. Kepler 2, 442. The night shift was always quiet on this remote supply depot. Earth felt like a distant memory out, here on the edge of explored space. His boots crunched on the rocky ground as he made his rounds. The twin moons cast strange shadows across the landing pads. Marcus checked his watch. 3 more hours until his shift ended. A soft whimpering sound stopped him in his tracks. Marcus turned toward the waste recycling units behind Building 7. The sound came again, quieter this time. He pulled out his flashlight and approached carefully. Behind the large metal containers, 2 small creatures huddled together. They were unlike anything Marcus had seen before. Each was about the size of a house cat, with smooth gray skin and large dark eyes that reflected his flashlight beam. They had 4 limbs and delicate hands with 3 fingers each. The creatures were clearly intelligent. Marcus could see it in their eyes. They watched him with fear but also understanding. They knew he could hurt them. "Easy there," Marcus said softly. "I'm not going to harm you." One of the creatures made a clicking sound. Both of them pressed closer together, shaking. Marcus noticed how thin they were. Their ribs showed through their skin. These beings were starving. Marcus's heart sank. Every regulation said he should report unidentified alien life immediately. But looking at these scared, hungry creatures, he couldn't bring himself to call it in. Not yet. He slowly reached into his utility pack and pulled out a protein bar. Breaking it in half, he placed the pieces on the ground and stepped back. "Go ahead," he said. "It's food." The creatures didn't move at first. Minutes passed. Marcus stayed still, patient. Finally, the braver of the 2 crept forward. It sniffed the protein bar, then grabbed it quickly and retreated. After a moment, it began to eat. The second creature followed. Soon both were eating desperately, as if they hadn't had food in days. Marcus pulled out his water bottle and poured some into his canteen cup. He set it down near them. The creatures drank gratefully, making soft chirping sounds. As they ate, Marcus noticed something odd. Around each creature's neck was a series of intricate markings. They looked like tattoos or brands, arranged in precise patterns. The design seemed too deliberate, too complex to be random. They looked almost like insignia. "Where did you 2 come from?" Marcus wondered aloud. The creatures finished eating and looked up at him. Their fear had lessened slightly. One of them made a trilling sound that almost seemed like gratitude. Marcus made a decision. He couldn't leave them here. "Come on," he said gently. "I know a place you'll be safe." He stood slowly and walked toward the unused storage bay in Building 3. After a moment, the creatures followed him at a cautious distance. Marcus felt an odd sense of responsibility for them already. He had decided to call them. Pip and Squeak in his mind. The storage bay was dusty, but warm. Old supply crates lined the walls, and there was plenty of space to hide 2 small aliens. Marcus set up a makeshift shelter using empty crates and some old blankets he found. "Stay here tonight," he told them. "I'll bring you more food in the morning. Then we'll figure out what to do with you." Pip and Squeak settled into the shelter, curling up together. They watched Marcus with those large, intelligent eyes. Marcus left them with the rest of his rations and locked the storage bay behind him. He would report them properly in the morning, he told himself. After they'd had a good meal and some rest, after he'd made sure they were safe, he returned to his patrol, his mind racing. Where had these creatures come from? How had they ended up here, starving and alone? The nearest inhabited system was weeks away, even at FTL speeds. The rest of his shift passed quietly. Marcus checked on Pip and Squeak twice more. Each time, they seemed more comfortable. The second visit, they didn't even flinch when he entered, as dawn broke over the outpost. Marcus headed to the barracks to catch a few hours of sleep. He would deal with the alien situation after breakfast. Maybe Commander Hayes would know what to do. He had just dozed off when the alarms started blaring. Marcus bolted upright, his military training kicking in instantly. The alarm pattern meant incoming ships. Multiple incoming ships. He grabbed his gear and raced to the command center. Other soldiers were running through the halls, confusion on their faces. The outpost rarely received visitors, let alone unannounced ones. Commander Hayes stood at the main console, her face pale as she stared at the displays. Lieutenant Morrison was frantically working his station, his hands shaking. "Commander?" Marcus asked as he entered. "What's happening?" Hayes didn't look away from the screen. When she spoke, her voice was tight. "We have incoming vessels. Approximately 300 ships." Marcus felt his stomach drop. 300. That's impossible. "Are they hostile?" "Unknown," Morrison said. "But sir, you need to see this." The main view screen activated, showing the space above the planet. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. The sky was filled with warships. Massive vessels, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They were arranged in perfect military formation. Surrounding the planet completely at the center was a flagship that dwarfed all the others. It was a floating city of metal and weapons, bristling with gun ports and shield generators. "My God," someone whispered. The communication console beeped. A priority transmission direct from the flagship. Hayes accepted it with trembling hands. The face that appeared on screen made everyone in the command center step back. It was humanoid but clearly alien, with angular features, deep red skin, and eyes that glowed with inner light. The being wore elaborate armor, covered in the same intricate patterns Marcus had seen on Pip and Squeak's necks. When the alien spoke, the translation software rendered its words in perfect English. "I am Emperor Kelvarus of the Valkyrie Imperium. You have stolen my children. Return them immediately, or your outpost will be reduced to atoms. You have 30 minutes to comply." The transmission ended. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face as realization crashed over him. Pip and Squeak, the royal markings on their necks, the Emperor's children. He had just fed the heirs to one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy, like they were stray dogs. And now an entire armada had come for them. Human soldier fed to alien strays. Minutes later, the Emperor's fleet arrived. Part 2. The Reckoning. The command center erupted in chaos. Officers shouted over each other. Someone started running calculations on their defensive capabilities. The numbers were grim. Commander Hayes held up her hand for silence. "Someone tell me what the hell's going on. We haven't taken any prisoners. We haven't even seen aliens on this planet before today." He knew exactly what was going on. His mouth went dry as he tried to find his voice. "Morrison, scan the outpost," Hayes ordered. "Every building, every room. If there are aliens here, I want them found now." Marcus stepped forward. "Commander, I need to speak with you, privately." Hayes turned to him, her eyes sharp. "Sergeant Chen, unless you know something about missing alien royalty, it can wait." "That's exactly what I know about, ma'am." The room went silent. Everyone stared at Marcus. Hayes's expression hardened. "My office. Now." Marcus followed her into the small side room. She closed the door and rounded on him immediately. Fast. Marcus took a deep breath. "Last night during patrol, I found 2 small aliens near the waste recyclers. They were starving, Commander. Barely alive. I gave them food and water and put them in Storage Bay 3. I was going to report them this morning." Hayes closed her eyes and pressed her fingers to her temples. "You found the Emperor's children and didn't report it immediately?" "I didn't know who they were. They look like abandoned animals. They have these markings on their necks, but I thought you thought wrong, Sergeant." Hayes grabbed her communicator. "This is Commander Hayes. Security Team 2, Storage Bay 3, Building 3 immediately." "Commander, wait," Marcus said urgently. "Something isn't right about this. Why would an Emperor's children be abandoned on a remote planet starving? That doesn't make sense. What doesn't make sense is you hiding alien royalty in a storage bay." Hayes snapped. But she paused, her military mind working. "You're right, though. The Valkyrie Imperium is known for their strict protocols. They wouldn't lose track of Imperial heirs, unless someone wanted them lost," Marcus said quietly. Before Hayes could respond, her communicator crackled. "Security team in position at Storage Bay 3, Commander. Stand by," Hayes ordered. She looked at Marcus. Show me these children. They hurried through the outpost corridors. Soldiers ran in every direction, preparing defenses that everyone knew were useless. The Velkari fleet could turn the entire outpost into dust with a single volley. At Building 3, 4 security officers waited outside the storage bay. Marcus unlocked the door with his access code inside. Pip and Squeak were huddled in their makeshift shelter, clearly terrified by the alarms and commotion. When they saw Marcus, they rushed toward him, making distressed chirping sounds. Hayes stared as the 2 small aliens clung to Marcus's legs. These are the Emperor's children? I think so, ma'am. Look at the markings. Hayes knelt down carefully. Pip and Squeak watched her warily, but didn't run. Up close, the intricate patterns on their necks were clearly visible. Hayes pulled up a reference image on her datapad, comparing them to known Velkari royal insignia. It's a match, she confirmed grimly. These are definitely Imperial heirs. One of the security officers spoke up. Commander, we have 22 minutes remaining on the ultimatum. Hayes stood. We need to return them immediately. It's our only chance. Commander, I don't think that's safe, Marcus said. Look at them. Look at how scared they are. And look at their condition. When I found them, they were near death from starvation. Someone wanted these children dead. That's not our problem, Sergeant. Our problem is 300 warships about to turn us into a crater. Right. Marcus knelt down beside Pip and Squeak. They pressed against him trustingly. He had only known them for a few hours, but the bond was there. They had chosen to trust him when they had no reason to trust anyone. Give me 5 minutes, Marcus said. Let me try to communicate with them. Hayes checked her watch. You have 3. Marcus pulled out a translator device from the supply cabinet. It was old technology designed for basic first contact scenarios. He placed it on the ground between himself and the children. Can you understand me? He asked slowly. The device buzzed and clicked, attempting to find a translation pattern. Pip tilted her head, listening. Then she made a series of chirps and trills. The translator's screen flickered. Understand. ... Some ... Yes.
L brought you here?
Marcus asked. More sounds from Pip. The translation was broken, but clear enough. Father's ... said ... vacation ... left us. No food. Many days. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. Your father's advisor abandoned you here? Yes. Wanted us die, said father. Would think humans took us. Hayes drew in a sharp breath. It's a setup. The advisor orchestrated this whole thing. Exile the children, blame humanity, start a war. And if we hand them back now, Marcus added, they walk right back to the person who tried to kill them. 15 minutes. Commander, the security officer announced. Hayes paced, thinking hard. We need proof. Something we can show the Emperor. Marcus activated his helmet cam storage files. I recorded my entire patrol last night. It shows me finding them, their condition, everything. It might not be enough. He'll think we staged it. Hayes looked at the children who were now clinging to Marcus again. But maybe their testimony would work. How do we deliver that testimony without handing them over to the person who wants them dead? Marcus asked. Hayes made a decision. We request an audience. Directly with the Emperor. No intermediaries. That's against protocol, Commander. It could be seen as an insult. Everything about this situation is against protocol, Sergeant. Hayes headed for the door. Bring the children to the command center. If we're going to save this outpost, we need to convince an Emperor that we're not his enemies. Marcus gently picked up Pip and Squeak. They didn't resist trusting him completely. As he carried them through the corridors, soldiers stared in shock at the small aliens. In the command center, Hayes opened a direct channel to the Velkari flagship. This is Commander Elizabeth Hayes of Forward Outpost Kepler 442.
Ice.
I request immediate communication with Emperor Calvaris. The response was instant and hostile. You do not make demands, human. You will return the Imperial heirs or face destruction. 10 minutes remain. I have the heirs here, and they are unharmed, Hayes said firmly. But I have information about a plot against the Emperor's life. I will only discuss this with him directly. There was a long pause. Then the voice returned, different now, colder. The Emperor does not speak with thieves and kidnappers. Marcus stepped forward before Hayes could respond. Then tell the Emperor that the human who fed his starving children wants to explain how they ended up that way. Another pause, longer this time. Finally, the view screen activated. The massive face of Emperor Calvarus filled the screen, his glowing eyes fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made everyone in the room step back. Everyone except Marcus, who still held Pip and Squeak. You dare to speak of my children as starving. The Emperor's voice boomed. Because they were, Your Majesty, Marcus said simply. I found them last night, nearly dead from hunger. I gave them food and shelter. I didn't know who they were. I just knew they needed help. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Then they shifted to Pip and Squeak, who were clinging to Marcus's uniform. For the first time, Calvarus's expression cracked. His anger faltered, replaced by something that might have been relief or pain. My children, he whispered. Then his rage returned, focused entirely on Marcus. If you have harmed them, look at them, Your Majesty, Marcus interrupted, knowing he was probably signing his death warrant. Really look? Do they seem afraid of me? The Emperor stared at his children, who were chirping softly at Marcus, completely trusting. 5 minutes, Commander, Morrison said quietly. Marcus knew they were running out of time. He had to make the Emperor understand. Your Majesty, your children were abandoned here by someone in your own court. They were meant to die so you would blame humanity and start a war. I have proof. I have my helmet cam footage and their own testimony. Please, just listen before you destroy us all. Emperor Calvarus's expression was unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. You will bring my children to my ship. Alone, unarmed. If this is a trick, you will die screaming. If you speak truth, you will be honored. Choose now. Marcus didn't hesitate. I'll come, Sergeant. No, Hayes began. It's the only way, Commander. Marcus looked down at Pip and Squeak. I'm not letting them walk into an ambush. If I go with them, maybe I can protect them. The Emperor's eyes gleamed with something that might have been respect. You have courage, human. In 1 hour, a shuttle will arrive for you. Come alone with my children, or everyone dies. The transmission ended. Marcus had 1 hour to prepare for either his death or his redemption. Human soldier fed to alien strays. Minutes. Later, the Emperor's fleet arrived. Part 3, The Defiance. Outpost descended into controlled chaos after the Emperor's ultimatum. Marcus sat in the briefing room while Commander Hayes assembled her senior staff. Pip and Squeak refused to leave his side, pressed against his legs under the table. This is insane, Lieutenant Morrison said, pacing. We're sending one soldier alone onto an alien flagship. They'll kill him the moment he steps off the shuttle. The Emperor gave his word, Hayes replied, though she didn't sound convinced. The word of someone who thinks we kidnapped his children. Morrison shot back. Sergeant Chen will be lucky if they just shoot him. Marcus stayed quiet, stroking Pip's head gently. The small alien chirped softly. Sound he had learned meant contentment. Hayes pulled up Marcus's helmet cam footage on the main display. Everyone watched the recording from the previous night. It clearly showed Marcus discovering the children in their desperate state, feeding them, and providing shelter. This proves we didn't kidnap them, said Captain Rodriguez, the outpost's intelligence officer. But will it be enough to prove the conspiracy? We need the children's testimony, Hayes said. Marcus, can they communicate more clearly now? The translator had time to build a better language model. Marcus placed the translator device on the table. Pip, can you tell us what happened? How did you get here? The small alien looked at the device, then at Marcus. She made a series of complex chirps and trills. The translator worked faster now, the words appearing on the screen in real time. Father's advisor, Lord Theron, told us we were going on a secret trip. A surprise for our father. He brought us here in a small ship. Said it was a beautiful planet where we could explore. But when we landed, he left us. No food, no water, no shelter. He said our father would think bad people took us, that there would be war. How long ago was this? Rodriguez asked. More chirps. 6 days. We tried to find food. There was nothing. We were so hungry. Then the kind human found us. The room fell silent. 6 days. 2 children, barely old enough to understand betrayal, abandoned to die slowly? God, Hayes whispered. What kind of monster does that to children? The kind who wants a war, Rodriguez said grimly. If the Emperor believed humans kidnapped his heirs, he would have wiped out every human colony in range. This Lord Theron gets rid of the royal children and starts a conflict that weakens both sides. Who benefits from that? Morrison asked. Theron does, probably. With the heirs dead and the Emperor focused on war, he could consolidate power. Maybe even stage a coup. Marcus felt Pip trembling. He realized she understood they were talking about the person who had tried to kill her. He picked her up gently, letting her hide against his chest. We need to get this information to the Emperor, Hayes said. But Theron is likely on that flagship. If he's there when Marcus arrives, he'll kill them all to cover his tracks, Rodriguez finished. Then we need a backup plan, Marcus said. Everyone looked at him. Commander, when I go to that ship, I need you to send a direct broadcast to the entire Velkari fleet. Not just the flagship, every ship. Send them this footage and the children's testimony. Hayes considered this. That's a massive breach of protocol. It could be seen as a propaganda attempt. Or it could be seen as transparency, Marcus countered. If we broadcast to everyone, we show we have nothing to hide. And if Theron tries something, hundreds of captains will have already seen the evidence. It might work, Rodriguez said slowly. The Valkyrie value honor highly. A public broadcast would appeal to their sense of truth. Hayes made her decision. Rodriguez, prepare the broadcast package. Morrison, have it ready to transmit on my signal. We'll send it the moment Marcus's shuttle docks with the flagship. Commander, there's something else, Marcus said. I want to go armed. Absolutely not, Hayes said immediately. The Emperor specifically said unarmed. I'm specifically going to be surrounded by people who might want me dead. At least give me a sidearm. If they detect weapons, they'll kill you instantly. If they want to kill me, they will anyway. At least this way, I have a chance to protect Pip and Squeak. Marcus met her eyes steadily. Commander, those children trust me. I'm not going to walk them into danger without any way to defend them. Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. Take your sidearm. Keep it concealed. And Sergeant, don't use it unless you absolutely have no other choice. Yes, ma'am. The hour passed too quickly. Marcus spent it in the storage bay with Pip and Squeak, using the translator to talk with them. He learned that Pip was the older sibling by 2 years, protective and brave. Squeak was quieter, more thoughtful, but just as intelligent. Are you scared? Pip asked him through the translator. Marcus considered lying, then decided they deserved honesty. Yes, very scared. Us too. But we trust you. You gave us food when we were dying. You gave us shelter when we were cold. You are a good person. I just did what anyone should do, Marcus said. No, Squeak chirped, speaking for the first time through the translator. Many people would not. They would see aliens and be afraid. You saw people who needed help? Marcus felt his throat tighten. Your father is very powerful. When this is over, you'll be safe again. Will you be safe? Pip asked. He couldn't answer that. The alarm sounded. A Velkari shuttle had entered the outpost's airspace. Commander Hayes met Marcus at the landing pad. The shuttle is unarmed, at least. That's something. Or they're confident they don't need weapons to handle one human, Marcus replied. The broadcast is ready. The moment you're inside that flagship, every ship in the fleet will receive it. Hayes offered her hand. Good luck, Sergeant. You're either the bravest person I've ever met, or the most foolish. Probably both, ma'am. The Velkari shuttle landed smoothly. It was elegant, nothing like human military craft. The door opened, revealing 2 tall Velkari soldiers in ornate armor. Marcus walked toward them, Pip and Squeak following close behind. The soldiers stared at the children, shock evident on their faces. They clearly hadn't expected to see the heirs alive and healthy. "I am Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen," he said firmly. "I'm here to speak with Emperor Kelvarus." One of the soldiers knelt before Pip and Squeak. "Your Highnesses, we thought. We feared. Dot." Pip chirped at him. The soldier's translator rendered her words, "We are well. This human saved us. He is under our protection." The soldier looked at Marcus with new eyes. "Then he is under ours as well, Highness. Please, board the shuttle." The ride to the flagship was surreal. Marcus sat in a seat designed for beings much larger than him, with Pip and Squeak pressed against his sides. The Valkyrie soldiers watched him constantly, their expressions unreadable. Through the shuttle's viewport, Marcus saw the flagship growing larger. It was truly massive, a floating fortress that could hold tens of thousands of people. "Sergeant Chen," one of the soldiers said suddenly, "I am Captain Vorik. I served under Emperor Kelvarus for 20 years. He is a good leader, but when angry he is ... severe. Tread carefully. I appreciate the warning, Captain. The children speak for you. That matters. But Lord Theron also has the Emperor's ear. He will try to discredit you." Marcus nodded. "I know. That's why I'm counting on the truth to speak louder than lies." The shuttle docked with a gentle thump. The door opened onto a vast hangar bay filled with Valkyrie soldiers and crew members. They all stopped and stared as Marcus emerged with the royal children. A tall Valkyrie in elaborate robes waited for them. His eyes were cold, calculating. Marcus knew immediately who this was. Lord Theron, the man who had tried to murder 2 children. "So," Theron said smoothly, "the human thief arrives with the stolen property. How generous of you to return what you stole." It hissed at him, a sound Marcus had never heard her make before. It was pure hatred. "I didn't steal anything," Marcus said calmly. "I rescued 2 starving children who had been abandoned to die." "Abandoned?" Theron laughed. "What a creative story. Unfortunately for you, human, we know the truth. You infiltrated our transport, kidnapped the heirs, and attempted to ransom them." "That's a lie," Marcus said. "Is it? Or is this simply an elaborate human trick?" Theron turned to the gathered soldiers. "This creature would have you believe I, Lord Theron, first advisor to the Emperor, would harm the royal children. It's absurd." "It's the truth," Pip chirped. Her translator broadcast her words clearly. "You left us on that planet to die. You said our father would think humans took us. You wanted war." Theron's expression didn't change, but Marcus saw something flicker in his eyes. Fear. "The child is confused," Theron said. "Traumatized by her ordeal. She doesn't understand what happened." "I understand perfectly," Pip said. Her small voice carried across the hangar. "You are a traitor, and this human is a hero." Before Theron could respond, a booming voice echoed through the space. "Bring them to the throne room now," Emperor Kelvarus had spoken. Marcus swallowed hard. This was it, the moment where he would either prove the truth or die trying. With Pip and Squeak at his sides and Theron's cold eyes burning into his back, Marcus walked toward his judgment. Human soldier fed 2 alien strays minutes. Later, the Emperor's fleet arrived. Part 4. The Emperor's Testa. Throne room of the Valkyrie flagship was designed to intimidate. Massive columns rose to a ceiling so high, it disappeared in shadow. The walls were covered in weapons from 1,000 conquered worlds. And at the far end, elevated on a platform of dark metal, sat Emperor Kelvarus. He was even more imposing in person. Nearly 3 meters tall, with armor that seemed to absorb light. His glowing eyes tracked Marcus's every movement as guards escorted him forward. The throne room was filled with Valkyrie officials and military officers. They stood in perfect silence, watching. Marcus spotted Captain Vorik among them, his expression carefully neutral. Lord Theron walked beside Marcus, his robes flowing elegantly. He wore a pleasant smile, but Marcus could feel the threat radiating from him. Pip and Squeak stayed pressed against Marcus's legs, giving him strength. The guards stopped 20 paces from the throne. Marcus stopped with them. The silence stretched, heavy and dangerous. Approach, the Emperor commanded. Marcus walked forward alone. Pip and Squeak tried to follow, but guards gently blocked their path. The children made distressed sounds, but Marcus nodded to them reassuringly. He stopped 10 paces from the throne and met the Emperor's burning gaze. "You are the human who claims to have rescued my children," Calvarus said. His voice was like distant thunder. "I don't claim it, Your Majesty. I found them starving near my outpost and gave them food and shelter. And you expect me to believe this? That my children, guarded by the best soldiers in the Imperium, somehow ended up on a random human planet? I expect you to want the truth, regardless of what it costs." Murmurs rippled through the assembled officials. One did not speak so boldly to the Emperor. Calvarus leaned forward slightly. "You have courage, human. Foolish courage, perhaps, but courage nonetheless. Tell me your story," Marcus told it. Every detail, from finding the children to feeding them to the moment the Valkyrie fleet arrived. He spoke simply, directly, with no embellishment. When he finished, Lord Theron stepped forward. "Your Majesty, a masterfully told tale. The human has clearly rehearsed it well." "Card, you calling me a liar?" Marcus asked. "I am calling you a kidnapper, trying to avoid execution," Theron said smoothly. "You infiltrated our security, stole the royal heirs, and when caught, invented this story about me abandoning them." "Why would I do that?" Marcus asked. "What would I gain?" "Political leverage. A bargaining chip. Perhaps simply the satisfaction of humiliating the Valkyrie Imperium." Theron turned to the Emperor. "Your Majesty, this human story is impossible. I personally oversaw the security for your children's transport to the Summer Palace. There was no stop at any human world." "Then explain how they ended up there," Marcus said. "Obviously you infiltrated our ship. Human technology may be primitive, but we know you have stealth capabilities. We're a supply outpost. We don't have stealth ships. We barely have functional shuttles." The Emperor raised one hand. Both Marcus and Theron fell silent. "My children," Calvarus said, his voice softer now. "Come to me." Pip and Squeak rushed forward, past the guards who let them through. They stopped at the base of the throne, looking up at their father. "Tell me true," the Emperor said. "Did this human steal you? Did he harm you?" "No, father," Pip said clearly. Her translator made sure everyone in the room could hear. "Lord Theron took us. He said we were going on a trip. He left us on the planet with no food or water. He said you would think humans took us. He wanted us to die." The throne room erupted. Officers shouted. Soldiers moved toward Theron. But the Lord Advisor didn't flinch. "Your Majesty," Theron said calmly, "the child is clearly confused and traumatized. She has been manipulated by the human. Young minds are so vulnerable to suggestion." "I am not confused," Pip shouted. "You are a liar and a traitor." "Silence," Calvarus commanded. The room obeyed instantly. The Emperor looked at Marcus. "You say you have proof?" "Yes, Your Majesty. My helmet camera recorded everything. The footage shows the condition I found them in their initial testimony." "Footage can be fabricated," Theron said quickly. "Not in the time frame he would have had." Captain Vorik spoke up, surprising everyone. "Your Majesty, if I may, the human had less than an hour between your ultimatum and his arrival here. He could not have created convincing false footage in that time." "Captain Vorik is biased," Theron argued. "He has always been soft on humans. Captain Vorik is loyal," Calvarus said dangerously. "Choose your next words carefully, Theron." Marcus saw his chance. "Your Majesty, my commander is broadcasting this footage and the children's full testimony to your entire fleet. Every ship is receiving it now. Let your officers judge the truth for themselves." Theron's composure cracked for just a second. Marcus saw fury flash across his face before the smooth mask returned. "How dare you?" Theron snarled. "You spread your lies to the entire fleet. This is propaganda. Psychological warfare. If it's lies, then you have nothing to fear," Marcus said calmly. Calvarus rose from his throne. The room seemed to grow darker, colder. You broadcast to my fleet without permission? I broadcast the truth, Marcus said. I'm one human facing an empire. The only weapon I have is honesty. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he gestured to an officer. Show me this footage. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. Everyone watched as Marcus's helmet cam showed him discovering Pip and Squeak. The children's desperate state was obvious. Their skeletal frames, their fearful eyes, the way they devoured the food Marcus gave them. The court watched in silence. Marcus saw several officers' expressions harden as they realized what they were seeing. The footage continued, showing Marcus's gentle care, the children's growing trust, and finally, their testimony about Theron's betrayal. When it ended, the throne room was silent. This proves nothing, Theron said, but his voice had lost its certainty. The human could have starved them himself, then recorded this. In 6 days, Captain Vorik challenged, while running a remote outpost, without anyone noticing? Lord Theron, Kelverus said quietly. Too quietly. Where were you 6 days ago? At the capital, Your Majesty? Managing affairs in your absence? Are you certain? For the first time, Theron hesitated. Yes, Your Majesty, because I have just received a report from my security chief. 6 days ago, one of our stealth transports took an unauthorized flight. The pilot's logs were erased. But the ship's trajectory would have taken it directly to the planet where this human found my children. The color drained from Theron's face. Your Majesty, that transport is registered to your personal fleet, Theron. It must have been stolen. Clearly someone is trying to frame me. Kelverus descended from his throne slowly. He was terrifying in his controlled rage. My children nearly died because of someone's ambition. Because someone thought starting a war and eliminating the royal line was a path to power. Your Majesty, you cannot believe this human over me. I have served you for 20 years. And this human served my children when they had no one else. He risked everything to protect them, knowing he might die for it. The Emperor stopped in front of Marcus. You understand what this means, human? If I am wrong, if you are the liar, you have orchestrated an elaborate deception. I understand, Your Majesty, but I'm not lying. If I am right, you have exposed a traitor in my inner circle and saved not just my children, but possibly prevented a war that would have killed millions. Marcus said nothing. There was nothing to say. The Emperor turned to Theron. I offer you the same test I offer the human. Trial by truth. You will submit to a mind probe. If you are innocent, you will be honored. If you are guilty, you will face imperial justice. Theron's mask shattered completely. You would subject me, your trusted advisor, to the degradation of a mind probe. Based on a human's lies? I subject you to the truth, Kelverus said, unless you have something to hide. For a moment, Marcus thought Theron would submit. Then the advisor's hand moved, quick as lightning, toward a concealed weapon. Marcus moved faster. His concealed sidearm was in his hand before he consciously decided to draw it. The blast caught Theron in the shoulder, spinning him around. Guards rushed forward, disarming Theron and forcing him to his knees. The advisor looked at Marcus with pure hatred. You should have died on that planet, Theron hissed at Pip and Squeak. Weak, worthless heirs. The Empire needs strength. The Empire needs honor, Kelverus said coldly. Something you have never understood. Guards, take him to the holding cells. Prepare the mind probe. I want every detail of his conspiracy. As guards dragged Theron away, still screaming about human corruption and weak leadership, the Emperor turned to Marcus. You concealed a weapon. I specifically ordered you to come unarmed. Marcus lowered his gun slowly. Yes, Your Majesty, I did. Why? Because I promised Pip and Squeak I would protect them. I couldn't do that unarmed. Kelverus studied him for a long moment. Then, impossibly, the Emperor laughed. It was a deep, genuine sound that filled the throne room. You violated my direct order to protect my children. You risked your life multiple times for beings you just met. You stand in my throne room and speak truth, even when lies would save you. The Emperor placed a massive hand on Marcus's shoulder. You human are either the greatest fool I have ever met or the finest soldier in the galaxy. Probably both, Your Majesty. The Emperor's laugh grew louder. Around the throne room, other Valkyrie began to laugh as well, the tension breaking like a snapped wire. Come, Kelvarus said. We have much to discuss. And you, Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen, have earned a reward beyond measure. Human soldier fed to alien strays minutes. Later, the Emperor's fleet arrived Part 5, the price of compassion. Imperial Medical Bay was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. Floating diagnostic screens surrounded him, and the bed adjusted to his smaller human frame automatically. His shoulder throbbed where the medics had treated the miner. Burn from Theron's return fire. Emperor Kelvarus sat in a chair beside the bed, looking oddly normal despite his imposing presence. Pip and Squeak were curled up at the foot of Marcus's bed, finally sleeping peacefully. The mind probe confirmed everything, Kelvarus said quietly. Theron had been planning his coup for 3 years. My children were to die. Humanity would be blamed, and in the chaos of war, he would seize control of the Empire. How many others were involved? Marcus asked. 17 conspirators across various departments, all arrested within the hour. The conspiracy is over. The Emperor looked at his sleeping children. Because of you. I just fed 2 hungry kids, Your Majesty. Staff Sergeant Chen, you did so much more. Kelvarus leaned forward. Do you understand what you have done? You have prevented a war that would have killed billions. You have saved the Imperial line. You have exposed corruption that threatened the foundation of my empire. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Anyone would have done the same. Would they? The Emperor's eyes were intense. My own security forces walked past my children every day and saw nothing wrong with following Theron's orders. My officers obeyed without question. But you, a soldier from a species we barely know, saw 2 beings in need and chose compassion over protocol. Maybe that says something about protocols, Marcus said carefully. Kelvarus smiled slightly. Perhaps it does. The Valkyrie pride themselves on strength and order. Sometimes we forget that true strength includes mercy. The chime sounded. An officer entered and bowed deeply. Your Majesty, Lord Theron and his conspirators have been processed. They await your judgment. Let them wait, Kelvarus said. I am speaking with the person who saved my children. The officer bowed again and left. The Emperor stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. I must reward you appropriately, he said. In Valkyrie tradition, one who saves the royal heirs is adopted into the imperial household. You would become guardian brother to my children. You would have wealth, status, and honor beyond imagination. Marcus's eyes widened. Your Majesty, however, Kelvarus continued, I suspect you would refuse such an honor. You are a soldier, not a courtier. You value duty over luxury. I appreciate the offer, Your Majesty, truly. But I belong with my unit, with humanity. I thought you would say that. The Emperor turned back to him. So I offer you something else. Humanity's first official ambassador to the Valkyrie Imperium. You would be the bridge between our peoples. You would help ensure that what nearly happened here never happens again. Marcus considered this. That's a big responsibility, Your Majesty. Yes. But you have already proven you can handle difficult responsibilities. Kelvarus gestured to his sleeping children. They trust you. More importantly, I trust you. Will you accept? Yes, Marcus said. I will. A soft chirp interrupted them. Pip had woken up and was climbing toward Marcus. She nestled against his good shoulder, making contented sounds. They will not want to let you go, Kelvarus said softly. You saved them. In their eyes, you are family now. I'll visit, Marcus promised, stroking Pip's head gently. As often as I can, see that you do. They need reminders that kindness exists in the universe. Over the next few days, Marcus watched the situation unfold. Commander Hayes and the outpost crew were invited aboard the flagship and honored as guests. The Valkyrie fleet stood down completely, their weapons powered offline as a gesture of peace. The trial of Lord Theron was swift and brutal. The mind probe evidence was absolute. He and his conspirators were convicted of treason, attempted murder of the royal heirs, and conspiracy to start an unprovoked war. The sentences were severe. Marcus was called to testify. He spoke simply and honestly, as he always did. When he described finding Pip and Squeak, desperate and starving, several members of the Valkyrie court wept openly. Theron showed no remorse, screaming about weakness and necessity until the guards removed him. Marcus felt nothing but pity for him. The man had thrown away everything for power he would never hold. The day of the award ceremony arrived. The entire Valkyrie fleet positioned themselves in formation around the human outpost, a display of respect that would be remembered for generations. Marcus stood on the flagship's main deck, wearing his dress uniform. Commander Hayes stood beside him, along with other members of the outpost crew. Behind them, Valkyrie officials and military officers filled the vast space. Emperor Kelvarus appeared, his children walking beside him. Pip and Squeak had been dressed in formal royal attire, but they immediately broke protocol to rush toward Marcus. He knelt and hugged them both. "We wanted to thank you properly," Pip said through her translator. "Without you, we would not be here." "You're brave kids," Marcus told them. "You survived 6 days alone. That takes incredible strength." "We had each other," Squeak added. "And then we had you." Kelvarus approached, and Marcus stood, still holding the children's hands. Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen, the Emperor's voice boomed across the deck. "By the authority of the Valkyrie Imperium and the unanimous approval of the Imperial Council, I bestow upon you the Star of Imperial Honor, the highest civilian decoration our empire can grant." An attendant brought forward a crystal medallion on a chain of pure platinum. The star pulsed with inner light, beautiful and mesmerizing. The Emperor placed it around Marcus's neck. "This honor has been given only 17 times in our empire's 10,000-year history. You stand among legends, human. I'm honored, Your Majesty." Additionally, Kelvarus continued, "You are hereby appointed Ambassador Extraordinary to the Valkyrie Imperium. You will serve as the primary diplomatic liaison between humanity and the Valkyrie people. You will have full ambassadorial privileges and protections." Another attendant brought forward a diplomatic seal and credentials. Marcus accepted them, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Finally, the Emperor said, his voice softer now, "My children have a request." Pip stepped forward. "We want you to be our guardian, brother. Not in title, but in truth. Will you be our family?" Marcus felt his throat tighten. He looked at these two small beings who had trusted him when they had every reason to trust no one, who had chosen him as their protector. "Yes," he said. "I will." The Valkyrie assembled let out a cheer that shook the deck. Even Commander Hayes was smiling through her tears. Later, Marcus stood at a viewport, watching as human ships began arriving. News of the treaty between humanity and the Valkyrie had spread fast. Diplomatic vessels, trade ships, and even some civilian craft came to witness history being made. Captain Vorik joined him at the window. "You look troubled, Ambassador. Just thinking about how close we came to disaster," Marcus said. "If I had reported Pip and Squeak immediately, instead of feeding them first, if I had followed protocol, then 2 children would have been handed back to their would-be assassin, and a war would have begun," Vorik finished. "Sometimes, Ambassador, the right choice and the proper choice are not the same thing. I just fed 2 hungry kids." "No," Vorik said firmly. "You saw beings in need and responded with compassion. You risked your career, your life, everything, for creatures you had just met. That is not just anything. That is the best of what any species can be." Marcus watched the ships moving in the void, human and Valkyrie vessels flying in formation for the first time. "My people have a saying," he said. "We're only as good as how we treat those who can do nothing for us." "Then your people are wiser than ours," Vorik replied. "We have much to learn from each other." The ceremony continued for hours. Marcus received a similar honor from the human government via quantum transmission. The Terran Medal of Honor, presented for valor and service beyond the call of duty. He would have to travel to Earth to receive it in person, but the announcement alone made him an instant celebrity. Through it all, Pip and Squeak stayed by his side, proud and happy. They had found someone who saw them not as princes or pawns, but simply as people who needed help. As night fell on the flagship, Marcus finally had a quiet moment alone with the children in the Imperial Garden. It was a vast, beautiful space filled with plants from 100 worlds. "What happens now?" Squeak asked, sitting beside Marcus on a bench. "Now I start my work as ambassador," Marcus said. "I'll help our peoples understand each other better. I'll make sure we build something good together. Will you forget about us?" Pip asked quietly. "When you are busy with important things?" Marcus pulled them both close. "Never. You two are the most important thing that has happened to me. You taught me that sometimes the biggest acts start with the smallest kindnesses. You taught us that strangers can become family," Pip said. They sat together in the garden as the stars wheeled overhead, 2 alien children and 1 human soldier, bound together by a simple act of compassion that had changed the galaxy. In the throne room, Emperor Kelveris watched a recording of the garden scene with his advisors. The new advisors, carefully vetted and trustworthy. "Your Majesty," one asked, "was the honor you gave the human appropriate? Some say it was too much for simply feeding your children." Kelveris turned to the advisor with eyes that burned. "He did not simply feed my children. He showed us that we had become so focused on protocol and strength that we had forgotten compassion. He reminded us that the measure of civilization is not in our weapons or our territory, but in how we treat the vulnerable, a lesson worth remembering." "Your Majesty," the advisor said quickly. "Indeed," Kelveris agreed. He looked back at the recording, watching Marcus laugh with his children. "That human gave me back something precious. Not just my heirs, but hope for what the galaxy could be." In the medical bay where it all began, the nurse who had treated Marcus's wound discovered something. A small protein bar wrapper, carefully folded, with a note written in crude Velkari script. "Thank you for your kindness." P.N.S. The nurse smiled and tucked it away carefully. Even the smallest gestures, she realized, could ripple outward to change everything. On forward outpost, Kepler 442, Commander Hayes stood in the storage bay where Marcus had hidden to alien children. She had decided to turn it into a memorial, a reminder of what one person's compassion could accomplish. A plaque was being installed on the wall. It read, "Here, Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen chose kindness over protocol, compassion over procedure, and in doing so, prevented a war and forged an alliance. May we all have the courage to feed the strays who cross our path." The story of the human soldier who fed to alien strays spread across the galaxy. It became a legend told to children of a dozen species, a reminder that the greatest strength was not in weapons or fleets, but in the simple choice to help someone in need, and in an imperial garden. Under alien stars, Marcus Chen sat with 2 children who had once been strangers, and knew that he had found exactly where he was meant to be. The end of one journey, the beginning of another. All because someone chose to share a protein bar with 2 hungry kids who needed a friend. Sometimes, that is all it takes to change the universe.